So what we're going to do today is look at, upon request from Larissa, some sort of case studies, other people's experiences. And Gerald organized a birthday party for me in Berlin in December of 2019. And people came from all over the world for it, especially China. So he had an idea we'd write a book together. So we had a lunch meeting that was a lot of fun and a party, and didn't do any writing. So when we got home, I said, send me some things. So they did. And this is, so we're going to be talking about these people, Cindy, and she's right there, I think. So Cindy, I met her in Beijing in 2011. She's a Green, and she became more passionate about 4D than the job she had in a telecom company. She and her husband have technical backgrounds. She quit her work and became a full-time provider. And until the COVID, I was going to China twice a year for 2 months at a time, 1 month at a time, 2 months total. And so she successfully brought that into Schneider Electric, Microsoft, et cetera, and said didn't have to market as customers. 4D practice produced results, including reports in the media, and she's delightful to work with. So I'm going to cruise through these. Since I went to the wrong place, I hadn't studied these, but I am familiar with them. So Yadi TV is a Chinese CCTV advertisement agency with more than 1,000 companies as customers. The company had a bottleneck. People lost their motivation. You know, that's a big issue everywhere these days. CJ said that people working in the hospital said they were overstressed and they'd lost all motivation. And they told him this. This is kind of incredible. So Mrs. Fu, I certified 3 employees, and they worked with Cindy. And over the 4 years, the revenue increased 4-fold. So that was great. And this is a pharmaceutical company. They began to, so what this certify means is that people in Asia, being certified is a big deal. So in the US, I never even had any kind of a diploma or anything with workshops. Nobody seemed to care. But in Asia and China, we have a big graduation ceremony. Everybody comes up and shakes hands or gives me a hug and gets a certificate that I've signed, and they're certified. So I just certified that they've been to class. I don't know if they actually learned anything because there's no exams or nothing. So these people go off and do what they do. So engaged 4D coaching and built a culture. Everyone's a leader, and they got best coaching practice prize. And Best Incorporated began to do it in 2016. I certified 6 executives. Now 4D training is mandatory for all directors, and they must pass the test before promotion. And this is about a guy who approached me in the parking lot. He had invested 1 million renminbi in all kinds of courses, and 4D was the only thing that ever made any sense, and he uses it now to serve Chinese organizations. And our participant wrote me this poem. This is usual stuff they do too. In the graduation ceremony, somebody will have a poem and lots of presents to where I can't even take them home. I tell them, don't. I'm traveling on an airline. Boxes and boxes of stuff is useless. So there are thousands and thousands of stars in the sky, but only one morning star. It's about me and blah, 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 blah. And this kind of interesting. A pretty lady came in with that's her with a boy about 10, or she and her husband had done the workshops, and her husband is keen on outer space, so he brought a book about Hubble that I signed. And I think you've heard this story that this is. I was driving. I was driving from Costco one day, and as I mentioned, I think shopping drains my energy. I go into a place like, I like to shop on Amazon because I can just hit things with my fingers and it's over. Junko likes to graze. For her, shopping is like fishing is for most people. She likes to walk around the shelves and see things. And to her credit, she often finds interesting, unusual things. And so I've kind of learned to tolerate this uh, more or less cheerfully. But on one of these trips, we're in there for an hour and I just got exhausted. So I came home and I'm zoning out. And at the time, I had a 7 Series BMW, which is a car that you don't notice speed much in. It's designed for the Autobahn. So the speed limit's 65 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour on the main highway. It drops pretty rapidly to 35 in Boulder, and I'm completely zoned out. So I get these there's lights behind me and a siren. So I pull over into a motel parking lot, and the policeman comes up and he's writing me a ticket. And he hands me the ticket, and I said, "Thank you very much for this. I really appreciate this, and I appreciate you people." I said, "You've done me a great favor." He looks at me like, "Am I crazy?" I don't think this is a normal reaction to people he hands a ticket to. And I said, I was zoned out. I wasn't paying attention. I was a risk to myself and others. And what I know is that if I have a traffic ticket, I've got 50% less chance of having an accident for the next 18 months. So you've done me a great service and I thank you for it. So he's still looking at me like, this is weird. And so with it came an envelope to send a check in for the fine, which was $100. So I write a check, put it in the envelope, mail it off. I get a letter back a week later, said, "Here's your check back. We can't find this ticket." So I went back and tore it up. So I told this story in workshops, and Cindy was my translator. Not Doris is my translator. Very fond of her too. And Doris was in the U.S. She took a regular job after a while with her boss, who's driving the car. And the guy gets pulled over in Florida for a speeding ticket. So he'd heard the story. So he starts to tell the guy how he appreciates the guy, and the guy says, "That's a bunch of bullshit. I'm not doing about your ticket. Don't give me this crap." And Doris then steps in, and Doris had learned the essence of this, which is do it authentically. So Doris said, "No, my boss is a jerk. You're right. But I do appreciate this." And she smiled and talked to him. And he said to the guy, he said, "You ought to listen to more to your staff. They're smarter than you are." So he tore the ticket up. So now Cindy, who heard the story both from me and from Doris, what this is about. She's got a private car, and the driver is parked in front of the door. They would do this for me for convenience, and they're forbidden by law to park there. So I come out. The driver is is issuing a ticket. So so Cindy telling this, not me actually. Cindy walks up and says to the officer, "Thank you very much. You're maintaining good order for all citizens of Beijing, including me. I appreciate your diligence and effort." The driver had been arguing with the guy, and the police tore up the ticket and said to the driver, "You show an attitude like hers." So this is the power of appreciation. Is this useful, this kind of thing, guys? This
Yeah, it's useful. Thank you, Charlie.
So here's another one. This is the manager of China Hotel Development for Marriott. I don't know the guy. So he's going to spend the national holiday with his family in Guangzhou, booked a hotel there. So because it was really busy, he wanted to pay for the reservation in full. But then in late September, dengue fever broke out, and he decided to cancel a trip. So they called the thing and asked if the prepayment could be refunded, and they said they could, and they asked to provide a bank account, problem solved. Then he said received a call from the hotel reservation, said that can't proceed with the refund because the accounting department did not approve. He was so angry. Why didn't they keep the promise? They couldn't refund the money. Why didn't they inform me earlier? It was too late for me to make an adjustment at that moment. So he quarreled with the associate over the phone, couldn't persuade her, then realized, what about the 4D method? So he started thinking about shared interests. The hotel wanted to keep the money. For me, I wanted the money was not wasted on nothing. So I said, thank you very much for calling me to confirm the reservation. No matter what happened, I believe we both want the problem solved. I understand the prepayment can't be refunded for hotel policy. I can't make the trip because of dengue fever. How about I redeem the money to the hotel with a hotel voucher? The English is a little awkward just because they don't write in English much. And he got the voucher. So here's a guy using the shared interest piece. This is incredibly useful for any kind of conflict situation. Here's a guy that learning and development manager of United Family Healthcare. Our department was responsible for the Catch Me at My Best program and lead my effort to hotel to participate in global competition as well. The workload was heavy, received snowflakes of cards every day. One day I read a handwritten card, Dear Mickey, I see you preparing training materials in the corner during the break, giving me a comprehensive in-depth understanding of your company and brand culture. Every day I saw so many cards that made me feel numb. I thought I couldn't be impressed, but unexpectedly, 10 minutes, 15 minutes passed and stayed in my heart. I was touched. So I silently placed it on the front of my desk. Our gratitude and appreciation is more powerful than we imagine, but in our hearts, it lacks hidden power, enhancing our sense of personal value and belonging. Gradually, it's become everyone's way of thinking, a habit, and even the culture of the whole enterprise. The day I received the card, I wrote a dozen Catch Me at My Best cards to my colleagues to express my appreciation for them. And the card that so touched me remains on my desk, accompanying me through the years. So, how about these stories, huh?
These are great stories. Thank you for sharing, Charlie.
Ms. Yussi Zhang, Associate Professor in the Center for Student Learning and Development at Shinhao University, a certified 4D trainer. And by the way, Shinhao is like, there's Harvard or Stanford. It's a big deal. That's where Microsoft goes to recruit, or used to every year, get people. And I've actually done classes at this university. She worked with 2 certified trainers to make the 4D based course, Emotional Intelligence Leadership for College Students. Overall score, the course ranked in the top 5%, got the highest score for student approval in the college. So it's kind of fun. Professor Ken Yangling from Guangzhou Panyu Professional Technology Institute came to my workshop and with her rationality and discretion. Other students were enjoying experience and sharing. She stood back and watched. I knew her mind was fixed in critical reasoning and evaluation. By the end of the workshop, she transformed into another person full of passion and energy. As she returned to the institute, she developed a course for college students named Mindset and Behavior Upgrade using the 4D systems. Her colleague commented, the course touches the soul, purifying people's tri-dhyama, refining people's minds. And the student said, the course is healing, teaching people to live with more clarity and happiness. So that's it for Cindy in China. By the way, what's really profound about her is that she determined to live this. And she is a walking 4D practitioner in her life. And it's changed her life, and she's seen the results, and she continues. I still talk to these people now and then, even though the time change is 12 hours. So it's hard to find a time when we're both awake. But anyway, so every couple of months I do Zoom calls with Cindy to this day. And her husband has built an online tool to do the online assessments, but it's in Chinese. And I've asked him to do an English version. She said he would, but I haven't heard anything about it. So comments or thoughts about all this?
This is amazing. And Charlie, side note, Darinka is not here to remind us that we have to have a physical pause.
Okay, on your feet.
on our feet. Thank you.
Darinka had to work today, so she's not here. So Dorinka's here in spirit, if not in reality.
Indeed. So one question before we go on from that
Yeah.
story. What is a tridhyana? Does anybody know exactly what that is?
I'm guessing it's kind of like, isn't there a Sanskrit word that's like this? Tanya might know it.
She didn't, so that was
Okay, I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I think it's just your state of mind. I'm
right.
thinking of Dharma. What's Dharma? Isn't Dharma like knowing God?
See what the Google says.
The inherent
I
the
had it the
eternal
other
and
day,
inherent
but I
nature
can't
of
recall
reality
now.
as a cosmic law underlying right behavior and social order. The nature of reality regarded as a universal truth taught by Buddha, an aspect of truth of reality. So I think it's an off take on Dharma and that went through Mandarin and then back to English.
Mm.
And I don't know what but I think it has to do with Dharma.
Right.
Good question, Nat.
That was Tanya's. I'm just asking, is she?
Hmm.
Oh, Dhyama is a term used for the seventh anga in the 8-step yoga practice of sage Panajali. That's the guy that goes back. Unfortunately, the word Dhamma is usually translated as meditation, but it's something different. Let's see. Okay, this is like it is a sort of a play on Dharma. It's the same kind of thing. And this guy, Penta Johnny, I've got quotes of him in the workshop. Goes back to some in thousands of years BC. I use it. He's talking about what I would call is the state of 100% commitment, where everything changes.
Mm.
You find yourself to be a far better and more powerful person than you ever imagined. I'm really big in the idea of states of being, and that's what he's talking about. The course touches the soul, purifying, refining your mind, healing. So this is why it's fun to do workshops over there. these folks are already into this stuff.
Right.
So Cindy's a delightful lady. She's got a son in school in San Francisco who's been here for like 6 or 7 years now, I think. So he's graduated and he's doing some kind of work. And I think he's always struggling to get visas. I don't know much about it, but I don't know if he's even been back to Beijing much. He's a very talented kid. He does kind of art combined with artificial intelligence or something. So move on. So Gerald is the guy who's set up the meeting, and he has these really interesting titles: Global Leadership School. So, addressing an unfortunate reality. Since I was young, I was everybody's darling, talented in many areas. Hearing that for 15 years straight got into my head that I'm special. Then suddenly I was in high school, I was with bigger shots than me all around. My red storyline was, I don't need you because I'm special, which is rationalizer. 1 year later, now 16 years old, nothing happened, no friends, nothing. The unfortunate reality is it did matter. So I accepted it must be me. I'm causing this. So I think this is interesting. You're seeing very different aspects of what's in the material play out for people. I adopted the 5-2 rule. I must ask 5 honest questions about something I'm really interested in before I'm allowed to give 2 statements. This is about meeting people's need to feel included, to be heard. It took me 12 months to integrate this, failing lots of times. I would punch my fingernails into my nail bed to remind me. After 1 year, I had one real and true friend. I was happy and full of joy. And from that moment, I was 100% committed to learn to grow and get better at every angle of my life. So that's an interesting piece of self-reflection. A huge test project from one of the biggest cell phone providers in the world challenged the company. Never delivered this kind of volume. The head of the company said, "This is our acid test. Gerald, we need you to guide this project. We cannot make one misstep." First, we clarified the goals, roles, responsibilities. This is the RAA work, eliminating any possible misunderstandings. Every week on Monday morning, all levels of management reported critical concepts, that is, unfortunate realities, upward to the project manager. The project manager solved what he could and reported what was relevant to the board members. This is the piece about acknowledging unfortunate realities. One potential unfortunate reality, run out of material due to the scale of the project, came to the attention of the board member. Usually these problems did not rise fast, if at all, to the surface. He clarified another material would be fine too, and a Chinese factory had the relevant volume in stock. So I don't know that he worked in China. I think this must be a German company. I don't know. In the middle of the project, I asked him, "This is the biggest project volume you ever worked on. Do you see any unfortunate reality?" He said, "No." "How about your suppliers? Is this the biggest project ever?" "Yes." "What could be their unfortunate realities?" They grasped it right away. Visit all suppliers, even on the weekend, and asked them to go to their suppliers with the same question. The result was a huge success. Fortunately, the Chinese had enough material in stock, but without inquiring, the issue would not have come to the surface. Success is worth 100 million euros. So I just think it's fun how different people pick up on different aspects of the thing. Authentic appreciation in a workshop improves team spirit, communications, and performance. A corporate team of a big retailer in Germany faced an important, complex organizational transformation. This team is in the center of the heat. Already a functioning team, they are blessed with an excellent manager and leader who wants the team to grow together and be able to better connect with other teams. The 4D assessment realized that authentic appreciation was very low. Apparently, they received appreciation from their supervisor, but not from each other. All were in aha and agreed. During the first exercise, they wrote each other appreciation notes, read them out individually, and thanked each other with handshakes or hugs. You could feel the joy in the room. In the second appreciation exercise, they included team members from other teams, supervisors, board members, and other stakeholders. Expressing authentic appreciation among the team members and outside the team created a strong bond, stopped blaming and complaining, and made them well balanced and motivated for the transformation ahead. Thoughts, comments?
I think the key word here is authentic, because if you just
Yeah.
train people to say thank you without them really meaning it, just really, people can really sense it from the
Yep.
distance. If you really mean, if you really are thankful and appreciative, it shows. If not, I don't know if yeah.
Here's a test for you, Larissa. How do you make it authentic? What do? Do you remember?
You you train yourself to really
It's
go
back,
through
it's back to AMBR.
yeah.
Okay. It's about the mindset. So if you pay attention, you focus your attention on what you have rather than what you don't have, and then adopt a mindset of gratitude, the appreciation will be authentic because it'll be the truth of your experience. So let's go back to the definition of storylines. Storylines are just thoughts that are true for you, but not true for others, or may or may not be true for others. The only easy truth I know is the truth of your experience. I like this trivial example. If I say this room is hot, is that arguable? Sure. If I say I feel hot in this room, is that unarguable? Yes, one exception, spouses. I'm hungry. No, you're not. So the trick here is to go back to AMBR and focus what you pay attention to, then run the mindset of green storylines about what you have and what other people contribute, which will give you the mindset of gratitude. When you're in gratitude, you'll experience the appreciation. So when you speak it, it's the truth of your experience, which is unarguable. That's how you do it. That's a lifelong practice.
That's a lifelong practice, and may I say so that in diplomacy, it's extremely important, because whenever you are in diplomatic negotiations, and if you really not authentically, if you're not authentic in your appreciation, then it shows. So it's just it really means a lot to both parties when they negotiate.
You know, I think this behavior is so central to everything that I tell people, if you only do one thing, practice this.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, also it creates a social context of mutual respect. And in that context, people are safe to tell you unfortunate realities. So going back into my history, I think if it wasn't particularly me, but I think if I had done more to appreciate the Perkin-Elmer team that for the good work they did, rather than pile on with everybody else about criticizing them for the fact that they were constantly overrunning and causing me great pain, I think somebody would have said, let's have a beer and talk about the mirror. And someone would have said, you know, there's a few mysterious things going on with that piece of equipment that maybe you ought to know about. And if someone had said that, we would have done a test. You know, it isn't hard to test for that kind of problem. So I chalk up the root cause of the Hubble mirror flaw with the fact that we never appreciated Perkin-Elmer for the things they did do. Instead, we criticized them for their shortfalls constantly. And this flowed from the head of NASA down through me into the field center. So the whole agency did this, and nobody understood this basic dynamic. The same thing with Challenger, I think similarly. And Marshall was on the front lines of this, and the reason they were like that is they had to kill the messenger center director. And I think that may be the biggest problem with China and Russia today. They have autocratic leaders that don't want to hear bad news. They never hear the truth. So that's how powerful this is. Thank you for asking, Larissa.
Yeah, absolutely. But
everybody got this? This is a really central idea about and now you asked about AMBR. Back to that. It's about where attention goes, power flows. You know, if you stop and think about it, do we really lack for anything? I mean, really? Do you really need another gadget or a newer this or that? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
All right, let me go give her the car keys. Go back.
But at the same time, Charlie, you have to admit, and we all have to admit, especially in case of NASA, when you under a lot of pressure, it's natural to really, I don't want to say be angry.
No, absolutely right. That's right.
Yeah.
No, you're right. If it wasn't, if things were going well, it's much easier. But we signed a contract with them and Lockheed for something like about roughly $50 million. Ended up costing 500. That's a lot of overrun, and that's a lot of grief. So one of the best things about building this house was when we had overruns, I could just pay them. People may think that sounds crazy, but I could decide it's worth funding, had to be paid for, and I just tell Tom it's paid for, and I got a bill next month for it and paid it. at NASA, when that kind of thing happened, I've got to go up to the management, get them, they beat me up. They got to go to Office of Management and Budget, they get beat up. Administration's got to go on the Hill and get the money, they get beat up.
Yep.
So in that environment, it takes real focus to be able to appreciate, but it has to be done. And
Yeah.
the same thing, I mean, you guys that are working in the trenches in the office, the stress is probably pretty high, and appreciation doesn't come easily in that social context. But you gotta find a way to do it, I think. And,
Yeah.
and you're right, you gotta sit down, say with, I think I could actually, I'm just making this up, but if I were to have a meeting with Putin about Ukraine, I think I could empathize with his worldview without agreeing with it. I think I could do that. I mean, it's all about, China's got the same problem. It's all about security against attack from people. And if you reason by analogy, which most people do, it's going to come again. I was thinking about that this morning, how little preparation most people make for the fact that I'm damn near sure. So let me give you something to think about. The U.S. thinks that we're energy independent because we got all this fracking, and almost all the new oil in the U.S. has come from fracking, and it's the biggest increase in the world production in a very, very long time. Do you know that all of the oil that comes out of the ground ranges from bad to crappy? And so all the U.S. refineries are designed to take this oil from the ground, which comes out almost as sludge sometimes, and convert it into everything from gasoline to diesel fuel to plastics to everything that we need, the raw materials to make concrete and steel and everything else. The fracking oil is what they call light sweet, and it can't be refined in the U.S. We don't have any refineries designed for that, and a refinery takes 15 years to bring online. And with the politicians telling them we're going to get off fossil fuel, which is nonsense, no one's willing to invest in a new refinery for a 30-year payback. So all of that new oil has to ship to a foreign country, and foreign countries ship this crappy oil to us to be refined. Then we ship the finished products back to them from their crappy oil, and they ship us the diesel and bunker fuel and gasoline from our oil back to us. What's going to happen if we have some kind of a big face-off with China or Russia, and all of a sudden it's not safe to run ships on the seas for merchants? This all goes away. So I don't know how you can look at that fact and not have a backup solar panel with a generator, but 99.99% of people don't. And the reason is they're reasoning by analogy. They're saying, well, I've never needed it up to now, therefore I won't need it. Not looking at the fact that the conditions are changing and rapidly. So anyway, that's my little soapbox on that. Thoughts, comments? It's not just about electricity. Electricity is only like less than 20% of the energy. The other stuff is the other 80%. So fixing electricity doesn't really fix anything anyway.
I just believe, hopefully, I really believe that this adversity, really, it's a challenge. I mean, for people in general, but I just hope it's going to work for us in future, because it's doing something to people, resilience. And I spoke about this in the past, but I mean, just waking up this morning, the whole schedule changed, from what it was last night. And you have to adjust your business and plan and travel and,
Yeah,
communication. Very disruptive.
yeah. I mean, it's hard to
Yeah,
run a business,
very
isn't it?
flexible.
I mean, you're just dealing with
Yeah,
your own personal needs. Imagine trying to run a business in this.
exactly. With 100 employees or the place I'm sitting
Yeah.
in with all the staff members, it's I don't even want to even start to describe it. It's really hurting the economy, but also the
Right.
morale and
That's right.
thinking.
Yep.
What was said earlier in that earlier case study about the mindset, where people just lose motivation for life in general, never mind just work.
Absolutely.
Don't want to be just make it negative, but it is negative. It doesn't help to
That's
deny
that
that.
there's a big difference between being negative and addressing unfortunate realities.
Yeah,
They're not, to me, they're not the same at all, but that's what you're talking about is this is gonna be a major blow to your economy until someone fixes this. And it's years away, isn't it, Nico?
it's not it's that it's gonna happening. It's already happening, and you see that everywhere. And it's and I mean, I always make a case of people cheering whenever there's a switch from darkness to the generator. But I mean, people are also angry,
Yeah,
and
as they
anyway,
should be.
every one of us. Yeah. You just can't accept this because this is mismanagement. This is a government letting you down. This is corruption. This is what it's about.
Yeah.
It's not lack of anything. We have everything. It's like
It's corruption, isn't it, Nico?
it is corruption, um, mismanagement, poor leadership. I'm so sad to say this to you guys, but it's the truth. They now have to address the whole thing of debt, you know. So how did they take care of it with a special meeting this weekend? They went to a magnificent place, a wine estate that's like top of the range, to go what? Go discuss the debt of the country. Can you imagine the paradox? It's conflicts and people are angry about these things, man. It's a challenge.
Well, back to Gerald. Here's a big company that bought a small company to widen their portfolio and tried to integrate them into the mothership. New company feels not included but overwhelmed with all the rules and procedures. Some of the new rules toward bonus still does not apply to their old business model, but cannot change at all. The problem is that parts of the team are still in the old world and complain and victimize their situation at hand. First, address the unfortunate realities of this separating feeling, the appreciation part. If they ever honestly thank the major consultancy for taking them on board, ever appreciate what happened to them, dive deeper and how appreciate, share with them how to avoid blaming and complaining. What is my role in the complaint or my feeling as a victim? Then about what I could speak up and announcing to take responsibility to address it. This is core stuff from the workshops. Everybody recognize this? Owning your role is the way you get out of blaming. We've always got one. And the feeling of victim, it's hopeless. Once you define it that way, it truly is. It's self-chosen helplessness. The clarity cycle, I don't know what that is. Gerald's very much in a mode of picking and choosing other things. Anyway, this worked. Comments or thoughts about his example?
Oh,
Yeah, we want to figure out what the clarity cycle is.
Okay. I can email him and ask him. Let's see what it says. Basically, you double check on each word of the assignments, procedure rules with any potential misunderstanding. Define and state what is in scope and out of scope. You bounce that back to headquarters to get their consent, understanding clarity. This we avoid any misunderstanding, double work, frustrating, blame. Looks like it's RAA work. Looks like it's
Semantical clarification.
and that's really important stuff. I've talked about this, but just to reiterate, when I built the online tool for social context management, I built in parallel a project processes tool. And I wanted the two to cross connect. So I got the idea of putting RAAs in the Roles Accountability and Authority in the social context tool, which hadn't been there before. And when I began to do these assessments, I was astounded. I just could not believe this. How you had these major flight projects and these things were unclear. I couldn't, I'm like, huh? This is management 101. So what happened is over the years, we discovered the most important aspect is your accountability, which is a choice you make. And Frank said, can we change it to accountability roles, etc. I said, no, it's in print too many places. We can't do that. But so when I had a team that couldn't function, we had people fill out the RAA worksheets, and they're in the workbooks that I've sent you. I can send it again if you want one. And then everybody came together and they stood up in front of the room and they described the results they're accountable to produce. And this is where the rubber hits the road. So what if your government was to sit everybody down, Nico, and say, what are we accountable to produce? I think reliable electricity would be pretty high on the list of something people are holding them accountable to do. If you think of it that way, it's a mindset shift if you're accountable to do it. So when people still had trouble, and some teams just couldn't seem to get this orange piece down, I said, okay, here's what in the final analysis, what you do. You put a sign on every person's door and you put on there, here's the results I'm accountable to produce, and put it on the door. Get clear about that and things go away quickly. So Frank and I both talk about our experience as consultants, where somebody's complaining, about they can't get this, they can't get that, and someone else is doing this, someone else is doing that. So what we typically do is say, tell us what you're accountable to produce. And what we usually hear is crickets. Until you can do that, that's the bottom line of everything. So when I start workshops, what am I accountable for to them? I'm accountable to give them a good experience, and as far as I can control it, to have the material presented in a coherent way, to start and stop on time, keep my agreements, to be fully present there, not to be distracted by anything else, to be connected with them, in relationship with them. That's what I'm accountable to do. So this is really clarifying stuff to get this clarity. So that's why he's naming it clarity, is to I think to get to the RAAs and especially accountability. That's what he's talking about here. And I think this bounce it back is fine, but we like getting everybody in the room and people stand up and just talk about accountability. I mean, that is the only thing that really matters. And most businesses spend all their energy around assigning authority, which is what the organization chart does. It's not about that. It's about accountability. So I think if you were to have everybody in your organization, what are they accountable? Another way I like to put it is, what are you accountable to do? What are you accountable to ask others to do? And what is your expectations of accountability from people you work with, a deeper level? But I think the first thing is, what results am I accountable to produce? And Tanya, that might yield some insights with this doctor you're dealing with. Get clear about, I think you probably don't have an agreement about what he's accountable to produce. And maybe that he doesn't with the organization.
Yeah. We have some, it's saying the organization, actually, we have an accountability coach. She's actually quite good. And she's like built this entire consultancy on this, and she's done amazing work, but this is the one outlier. He will not participate.
Oh,
And-
jeez. He doesn't want to.
He doesn't want to. It is absolutely clear.
And we know why.
Mhm.
He doesn't want this clarity around his accountability.
Yeah.
And the management shouldn't tolerate that.
Yep, we came to a critical moment about 2 Fridays ago.
Fisticuffs?
Not
Well,
fisticuffs, but
strong words.
strong words. I think
Okay.
maybe something like I'm more than just a little pissed
Mhm.
between the CEO and the COO of like, something has to be done, and they understand that. Like
Yeah.
this is not the rest of the organization's problem, who's embraced accountability, and most people are kind of playing nice in the sandbox and really trying to do better. He has absolutely said, I don't want to play in that sandbox. So they see it.
You know, I've got a little anecdote here. I only got 1 minute left, but I had a guy that was just a real pain in the workshop and just annoying me and nagging me. Next morning, I started off and I said, look, I said, I spoke to the team leader, but everybody was there. I said, I get that this guy is a technical wizard, but his presence is damaging your capacity to function as a team. And it's up to you to decide whether the price is worth paying. It's not my problem, but you should think about it. And it got to him. He changed. He said, no one's ever spoken to me like that before about how what I was doing was affecting everyone. I never thought of it. That's I think really smart people have this liability. They've learned how to get away with it in their lives.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you all. I'll see you in 2
Everybody,
weeks.
thank you, Charlie.
Unless the weather turns bad. Was this a useful session?
Yes.
It was good.
Yeah, all
Excellent
good.
session.
I gotta
Thank you.
run.
Thank you all. See you.
Thank you.
Unless the weather turns bad.
Bye.
All right.